Good morning, friends. As we've been talking so much about strength and toning and things like that, I wanted to remind Deb and I, as well as the rest of you, like, it doesn't mean to give up the other good things that we're doing. It's not an either or. It's not like if I'm exercising, then I don't have to eat well and vice versa. And because one of the things that I noticed when I had so many friends who were doing all these different diets, sometimes the diets were they helped you lose weight, but they weren't good for us as a person, like overall. Like it could harm another part of our body. So just being aware of what we're doing and trying to stay in that mindset of it's the overall health. It's everything that we know is good for us. That's why sometimes the new fad diets are they can be kind of worrisome if they have you taking out like entire food groups. I mean, in my own personal opinion, I don't think we should be removing food groups unless it's junk food, uh, whole food groups, unless you have some kind of medical reason or, like Steve was asking me the other day, like what would happen to somebody if they had gluten, if they really were had a gluten sensitivity. I said, it'll make them super sick. I said, it's not just that, for it's become a fad to give up gluten, but there are people who are truly, truly sensitive to it, allergic to it, if you will, that will just make them sick for like really sick. It can last for days depending on what they've eaten and how sensitive they are to it. So it really is important to know that. Um, but for the rest of us, if we're just looking for our best health, that's where you need to know how you feel best. Maybe there is something. Maybe when you have dairy, you don't feel well. So then, dairy is one of those things that, we think of it for calcium. There's so many other sources that we can get calcium from that we don't need to have dairy if that's something that doesn't work for you.
Yeah. Really, like broccoli is a great source of calcium, but we don't think about it. And
No.
when I was researching the osteoporosis, so like any kind of cruciferous vegetable like broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, those are like amazing for your bones, but we
Yeah.
don't think about it. And one of our friends joined us for the weekend. We were at the shower, and she's a PT, and she said bone broth is like amazing. Or if you cook your whole chicken and then eat, drink the broth. It's the same thing. And we just get bone broth. But she said we miss all those things. Like chicken breast is great, but we miss all the things that are in the bones that are good for us too when we just have chicken breast. So it was interesting to talk with her too. It's just a lot of fun. But I don't know where I was going with that. Oh, the cruciferous vegetables
Yeah.
so have calcium because the person I talked with online said the same thing. Like, yeah, I mean yogurt and all that's good, but we don't have to have Greek yogurt or it's good for a lot of things, but there are other things also if we don't do dairy well, which I do, I guess. I don't know. It's interesting to know, like, because
Yeah.
we probably all have sensitivities that we don't know. And that's what Rachel's friend Tay was saying. She didn't realize that she's like, can't do gluten. She can. It's not like she has celiac where it's going to be fatal, but she wasn't feeling well and she's allergic to like peaches and pecans and she's like, oh my gosh, she had no idea. And
Yeah.
she lives in Georgia, so she said
Oh,
to the doctor, so essentially I'm allergic to Georgia. That's awesome. She's so funny. She's just a sweetheart, but anyway, so
yeah.
lots of ways to get our calcium. Doesn't have to be dairy. um yeah, she's a little leery of calcium supplements, which I have been too, and I've been taking those, and I'm like, I'm not sure I like these. So, but
Yeah.
I do that silly 24-hour test. So it goes.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. There's just so much, so much information out there that once you start paying attention to you personally and start really kind of keeping track of, oh, I feel really great when I when I ate this, or I moved like that, or I had this kind of day, or whatever. And then, I'm feeling a little off today. What have I had? And literally over the last 3 days, because we tend to look at the day before, but
Mhm.
foods can stay with us for up to 3 days. So, and even things that we drink. So, if you are looking at like how, like what makes you tick, remember to look over a period of time to see if there are things that are setting you off one way or the other.
Mhm.
So,
And we're all different that way.
yeah.
And we talked about in the beginning of diets, and we literally can't burn off a lot of what we eat just by our daily, even a good walk, or I think we talked about it before, but even like a Whopper Burger King meal, you'd have to run a marathon. A marathon, folks. I am not
And
running
that's
any
that's
marathons.
one burger.
One, yeah.
Yeah.
Was it? It
That's
wasn't
not
even
a
the meal, it was one burger.
well, I don't know.
That's
But
crazy to
okay,
me.
so even if it's the meal, but I'm saying like out of like your whole day, it's one meal. So yeah. Hello.
Yeah. And it's not to say don't do it. It's just to be aware of it. Like you're not probably going to burn those calories off. I think some of us do that, and then we're like, "Well, I went to the gym for 2 hours and I didn't lose anything." Because that it takes a lot more to burn that meal off than one workout. So,
I think we're going to talk a little bit more about that tomorrow.
okay,
Because we're getting
okay.
long, but I like this. So we'll see y'all tomorrow, buddy. Friends.
Bye.
Bye.